Hey everybody, it's your girl, Nycci Nellis. Welcome to another industry night. Yes, I'm back in my office. No restaurant today, just me and my plants, and you will probably hear my dogs, because that's what happens when you do this out of the house. But also, today's guest really doesn't need a backdrop. Probably what he really needs is like a microphone, because that's kind of his vibe. But I'm going to tell you why I invited him in because of this. The book is called My Greek Mom's Recipes, but the tagline is, she died, I wrote this cookbook. And when the publicist first sent me this book, I was like, I got to know more about this human being because this is so beautiful. So if you've been anywhere near TikTok in the last couple of years or been on the gram, you definitely know who I'm talking about. Oh, hold on. Gus, say your last name for me because I don't want to butcher it. Constantellis. Okay, I would have said it right. All right, Matt, I hope you can cut that out, please. All right. Okay. The guest that I'm bringing on today is Gus Constantellis. He is Greek American, but you know him for his comedy because he's also a writer. He lives in Brooklyn, like who doesn't? But he's built this massive following doing something so simple, but it's really genius. He's impersonating his mother, which I find hilarious because if I impersonated my mother, she would have killed me. The Greek Mom videos are everywhere, millions and millions of views on the Talk and the Gram and the YouTube and etc. And you've really seen him all over the place, and I'm so delighted that he's joining me on this show. But here's the thing. Gus lost his mother a couple of years ago, Julia, and instead of letting her recipes and her voice and her fab one-liners just sort of disappear into the ether, he did something totally different. He turned it into this beautiful memoir. So to me, I know it's a cookbook, but to me it's really a memoir about Gus and his mom, Julia, and their relationship and their life together. And what they shared together. So, Gus, I'm so delighted you're joining me here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This is so exciting.
It's very exciting for me. So, you're just off the boat from Greece, like legit. What were you doing in Greece?
Yeah, I did 10 days in Greece with my boyfriend. So we started in Mykonos, and I've never been to Mykonos, so it was kind of a fun thing for me because I've never experienced that part of Greece. When I go to Greece, it is like, family, the
Sure.
village, like hometowns. So I got to experience Greece in that way. And then we went to Naxos, which is a little bit more chill. And then I took my boyfriend to the village and to my dad's hometown. So I had it was a very interesting, like full spectrum of Greece trip of like from the pure high end tourism to like literally we're like we got there at 7 and we were like we're hungry and my dad was like well they don't start cooking until 9:30 so you're gonna have
Right.
to wait like there's nothing and it was a holiday so it was just like this crazy like 2 day bender that we went on where we were up till like 5 o'clock in the morning with my dad both nights at these like crazy Greek parties and my boyfriend was just like I don't know what's going on, this is crazy. So
Yeah,
it
you
was
either you have
awesome.
to be in it to win it, right? I'm assuming if
Oh
you're with
yeah.
your family.
Absolutely. And it's funny because what he kept calling it the village was farm to table. He's like, everything here is farm to table. He's like, all the veggies, all the fruits, everything I've
Yeah.
eaten has been like from this village. And I was like, I've never really thought about it like that. But yes, it is technically farm to table.
Right. Because where else are they getting it from? I mean,
Exactly.
seriously, right?
Yeah. The figs are
Uh,
literally from the tree.
So did you grow up going to Greece? Was that your, because all the Greek friends I have, their summers are spent in Greece.
Yes, I was the same way. I was just like going to the village, going to like maybe an island or two, going to see my grandma, but it was like 2 months at a time, 3 months at a time sometimes.
Right.
So it was really like the whole experience.
What an absolute gift. I want to know a little bit about you before we get into the book. I'd love to know how you got into comedy.
Um, okay, funny enough, I used to watch stand up with my dad a lot growing up because he loved it and all the raunchy stuff he really loved. And then I started doing it in college. I like did a talent show in college where I was like, I'm gonna do stand up, whatever, and then I won. So I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay, I should keep doing this probably. So then I moved to LA, I started a job, and then I picked it back up like after I moved to LA, and I was like, okay, this is still fun. And then it just took on from there. I moved back to New York after living in LA in order to just really commit to stand up full time. So it was it's great. It all worked out really.
Right. I mean, did it occur to you all the writing that would be involved with your comedy? Like writing your
Yeah.
own jokes, like were you inspired early on by your family environment in your storytelling as part of your way of being a comedian? Because there's so many different genres of stand-up comedy.
Right. And I always wanted to be a writer, like from like when I was a kid. Like my first dream was to be an author. And like I
Uh-huh.
remember telling my parents that. So to have become an author in this way particularly is like very special to me too.
I bet.
But yeah, I was always very drawn to the writing aspect. I always knew I was going to be like a storyteller in some way.
And in your early comedy, were you using your mom as a
Oh,
part?
every that was like the
Was she
first
fodder the whole time?
basically from like the one of the first jokes I ever told on stage was when I came out to my mom, she said, "You don't cook or clean. How can you be gay?" So like that was like, yeah, she's been in it from the very beginning. Yes.
I just the stories you told about your mom actually they don't remind me of my mom at all because my mom's not an immigrant. My grandmother, my mother's mother, is first generation, but Jewish, not Greek, but Jewish grandmother who wanted to feed you all the time, always cooking, inspired my love of food. But would say, and loved clothes. Like I had both. And she would say, eat this, baking this, let's do that. And then afterwards she would say, that's a little tight on you. So
It's just
she's getting a tush on her, like, I'm like,
it's just unbelievable. I know. There was a period in LA where I got really thin and then my mom was like, "You're so thin, people feel bad for you." And I'm like, 2 years ago, you were on my case about this. What happened?
right, I was too fat now because there's no such thing as
Yeah.
perfection, right?
She looked at me one time and she goes, "You got fat. You can't tell from the way your clothes fit." And I was like, "Oh my God, brutal. I'm just out here. Happy Easter, mom, you know?"
Right. Well, at what point did you hop on social media?
It
And
was during the pandemic. It was like right before the pandemic. My ex at the time like really inspired me to like do the Greek mom shtick because he had a wig and he was like, "You should do your mom. Like just see what happens." And then it really just took off during the pandemic of April 2020. It was just like I posted this Easter video of me impersonating my mom, and it was like everybody just like shared it everywhere because it was like the one thing we were all missing that year too was the communal aspect of
connection.
it. Yeah. And so it just spread like wildfire. And then that's basically when it took off.
And at what point, like, so you had it as your comedy, but
Hmm.
when did the food come into play? Because unless people were with you on this journey, you really have
Right.
to scroll back to find things. So when did you bring her in? I mean, she became a celebrity in her own right between
She,
the two of
I
you.
introduced her like a few months after I was doing her impression, just to be like, here's the real person. And people like loved her.
Sure.
And as I posted more and more videos of her, there was always some food involved. There was always cooking involved. I did a few cooking videos with her. But like the cooking journey I went on was that when I lived in LA and I was separated from her, I would call her up and ask for recipes because I'd be like, I can't make this, so I need to know how to make this. And I would learn her things like that. And so the cooking was always just part of like our relationship, and doing the cookbook with her was always something I wanted to do with her. But obviously it didn't work out that way. But this was something I kind of always had in the plan of like how it was all going on Instagram, especially with the way that people fell in love with her. But the cooking, she was always like in the kitchen in those videos and always telling you what she was going to cook. So it was always very important to like the
Part of the
essence of
story.
yeah, the
Yeah.
essence of the story. Yeah.
And now, when you sort of think back on that, I mean, were you, as we talked about you being a writer and a comedy writer, were you sort of scripting these videos? Were they more off the
No, not at all.
cuff?
Especially with my mom, the ones with my mom, like not off the, like all off the cuff. In fact, like she would say something funny when the cameras weren't rolling, and then I would be like, say it again. And she would never say it the same way again. And I'm like, come on, man. So it's like you either had to get it or you didn't get it. And so she also, after a certain while, she started getting really smart to it because her friends from church started sharing the videos and telling her how much they loved them. And she started really like being like, you know what? Fuck what this little kid, fuck what my son wants me to talk about right now.
Right.
I want to talk about some shit right now. I had a day and I'm going to tell you about my fucking day. So she would just use it as an opportunity to just rant or talk about anything she wanted after, it had started to kick off a little bit, which I thought was really funny. But it was also all very edited. Like, I'm giving you a very edited version of her. Like, there was also, like, I would film her, and then after a certain while during the day, I would stop and be like, okay, now it's no camera time. Now it's like Gus and mom time, not that time. So I always had a clear separation in my brain of like when I was going to be filming her versus not.
Well, I think that's really important because you didn't
Yeah,
want your whole relationship to be based on this new
right.
platform, this new thing that you were doing together. Business and
Absolutely.
pleasure, two different things. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Julia and how her food informed you growing up, you know, growing up in an immigrant household, growing up queer, and how that related to both your parents. I mean, you really share, like I said, it's really a memoir. You really share all of that here in the book. Can you kind of walk through growing up and how the food sort of weaves its way into where you are today?
So it's interesting because my boyfriend grew up in the suburbs of Jersey. And so
Me
I
too.
asked him, oh, great, where in Jersey?
I grew up in the Morristown area.
Oh,
North,
cool. He
north.
was Manalapan, so more south, I guess.
Yeah, that's south.
Yeah, near Freehold, where Springsteen is from.
Yes.
My fave. I love me some Springsteen. I have a Springsteen tattoo right here. But
Good for
all
you.
that said is, his two takeaways from Greece were one, the buses are more organized than Port Authority. Two, uh, he was like really because when we went to the village and we went to when we were where my dad was from, he really got to experience a real version of Greece, and he was like, "There's such community here. Even
Mm.
if it's a village, there's a community here and there's communal things that you all do together. Like in suburbs, it's like one house there, one house there. But in villages, it might be one house there, but there's a square and everyone goes there and everyone knows each other and talks to each other. And he's like, that really doesn't exist in America. And I think that was the importance of food growing up. It brought us together
Mm.
always in every event. And it brought people that weren't even Greek together. Like my best friend Michael, who's Italian American, his family would come over for Easter and they would share in our food and be like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like some
Sure.
of the recipes in this book are only because my friend tried her food and asked me, are you going to include this thing? I need this thing in there because I love the way she made it. So, and also because my mom never spoke English in her time in America, she always spoke Greek.
That
She never,
blows my
I
mind.
know. The only
She's
thing
a
she knew how to, it's 40 years, the only thing she knew how to say were hello, how are you, and fuck you. And I'm like, that's wild. It's all you need. But, and you know what the thing is she would also, like, in Greece, when she would complain, she would get her way. And she would always say, like, if I spoke the language, I would be president of the United States. And it probably would be true.
maybe, right?
But yeah, she didn't speak English. So food was her way of communicating
So,
at
what
a
do you
certain
think?
point.
I'm just sort of curious. She lived here. What do you
Hmm.
think her aversion to speaking English was? I know a couple other friends of mine whose moms, one is originally from Iran and one is from China. And their parents, I mean, their parents immigrated here, but the parents do not speak English.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I'm always like, are they afraid they're going to screw up? Are they, is it more a self conscious thing? What do you think it was for your mom?
I did ask my mother this at one point, and she really was like, I totally regret it. I should have just learned it. It was so dumb of me. But like
Mm,
at the time, we were very poor. We didn't have
hmm.
anything. So she had to stay at home with my brother, who was 2 years old at the time, while my dad worked. My dad learned English in Greece because they have a lot of like English teaching programs. And his grandparents sent him to English school because they were like, listen, the situation here is bad. You're
Sure.
probably gonna have to learn this soon, so might as well learn it now.
Mm.
So she relied on my dad a lot because he spoke the language. All of her brothers and her family members who also immigrated with us also really relied on my dad. And then when the kids were old enough, they would rely on the kids. And then I
Sure.
would have to sit there and translate, like with the IRS, and be like, I don't know this, I don't know, like doing healthcare
I'm
forms with my dad, being like,
5. Right.
I'm 5 years old, I don't know what a deductible is. This is crazy. Um, but with her, I think at first it was a level of arrogance where she was like, I don't want to learn it, but. But I think
Hmm.
it was an economic circumstantial thing where she just didn't have the resources,
Mm.
and she didn't really have the community to find the resources, because she talked about those first 5 years in America as like deeply lonely. She's like, I was
Mm.
at home with a baby, and like I didn't have friends, and I didn't speak the language, and I didn't know where the fuck I was going to go. I can't drive. So
Right. And then
it
did
was,
she also, like, how did food, because, Lydia Bastianich tells a very similar story when she came to this country in the 60s, that, like, she didn't speak the language. Her husband left for work. And, no, not Lydia, Marcella Hazan. She tells the story, Victor left for work, and I was in the middle of Queens, and the grocery store scared the shit out of her, and she didn't
right.
know like what the products were, and she just wanted to make the food that made her feel like home. Is that similar to what your mom experienced?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because she never stopped cooking like Greek food until the day she died. It was always like everything that was in the book was always being made like at least once a month, at least twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
And like Sundays were our like we either did a lamb roast or we did a chicken roast. And it was like Sunday afternoons was everyone sitting down, 2 p.m. We're having our roast. And that's
Right.
like, it was always just very important to the way the family operated. Yeah.
And were you in the kitchen with her at all growing up, or was it
Oh
really
yeah, especially as the
okay?
gay little kid, because I have two older brothers. As the gay little kid, I was the one baking all the cookies with her and helping her with all the ingredients if she needed to, because I was just happy to help. So when it came to making this cookbook, I was able to like really go by texture and smell a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
that was also like a real, trip for me, because I was like making cookies at one point and I was like, oh, I know, they're ready. Oh, I get it. Oh, this is how they feel. And it really brought back this like childhood memory of being in the kitchen with my mom. Because she didn't have those professional stand mixers growing up. She
Right.
used one of those hand mixers. So someone had to sit there and just hold the bowl for her, and that was
Right.
me as the 7-year old. Yeah.
I mean, that's why they had a lot of the women of generations past have much stronger arms thanks to those
Yes.
handheld mixers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd love to know a little bit about, as you were growing up in America, did you ever have any sort of like conflict with your mom and dad because kids at school were doing X, and you were coming to, because of the food you were eating or anything like that? Was that ever an issue?
No, because we grew up in Brooklyn, so we had so many different ethnicities around us. Like, I grew
Right. I
up
mean,
with
it's.
everybody around me. Like, I had like every single type of person in my
Mhm.
kindergarten class. So it was never like a thing that was like weird. We weren't out of the norm. Like, there was other Greek kids, and like, I don't know, growing up in Brooklyn and having everybody around you as a child, you're just gonna soak all that in and learn. So that
Right.
was kind of what my takeaway was. But
As it
like,
should
in
be.
terms of
That's the
like
beauty of
conflict,
it.
yeah, that's how, I mean, yeah, that's the only thing I hate about the suburbs. I'm like, if they were just as diverse as Brooklyn was growing up, we wouldn't be in half the problems we are in now, but whatever.
Yes.
Uh, if people just grew up knowing what Ramadan and like Rosh
Right.
Hashanah were, we wouldn't have problems like this. Like, it is what
I
it
know.
is.
I did grow up in a
Um,
very diverse
yeah,
suburb, and but also, you know, I think it just depends what's available to you. If you're
right.
able to travel, if you're able to go places, if you're able to inform yourself and have interest in others, intellectual
Yeah,
curiosity, then yes. I mean, I think we're
right.
both on
Absolutely.
the same
Yes.
page.
100%. Yeah. Love. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think like my boyfriend took away from this trip too. He was like the cultural aspect I would never have gotten just going to Greece as an American tourist. Like, I got
Mm,
such a cultural journey here. And in terms of like all of the different aspects of how we live, and especially when it comes to food and how like communal food is,
right.
the conflict that me and my parents shared was me being gay. Like, my mom hated that I was gay. Took her a very long time to really come around to that. My dad was very, very, did not care at all. My dad was so chill. My
Okay.
dad was like, leave her alone. I'll condition her. Give me some time. Like, I
So,
don't.
but you came out to both of them separately, or did you come out to
Yeah,
them
I did.
together?
It was a year apart. I did my dad when I was 19. I did my mom when I was 20. So it took a
Okay.
little while with my mom. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, back to my grandmother. My uncle is gay, and my grandmother like worked in the clothing industry. Her boss and his partner at the time, like she was surrounded by people of all sorts. I mean, there were the terminologies, the LGBTQIA that we have today, and she did not have. She thought she was so cool. I mean, that's my
Yeah.
grandmother, right? But then when my uncle came out as gay, she did not respond so kindly. I mean, this is almost 40 years
Yeah.
ago. Very different today. It's a very
Yeah.
hopefully different world today. But as you all sort of come together and you start doing these TikToks, let's talk about the food you were making. Like, was your mom running the show? Was she like, today I want to make X? Or were you like, Mom, I'm really feeling like Y? You know?
Oh no, I would ask her. I would call her up and be like, "Hey, can we do this today so we can learn it and then I can also film it?" So yeah, yeah. I would try to like so she could prepare.
Okay. And
Yeah, that was really
so
fun.
when your mom passed, you had this wonderful trip in Greece. You did not know it was going to be the last. I mean, it must have taken a lot to, first of all, put your grief down, pen to paper, even though you're a great writer, and then to decide to make it a cookbook. How did
Yeah.
you come up with that?
Well, I always wanted to do it with her. It was always like something I planned. I do have a video right before she died where I asked her, I was like, we should do a cookbook together, and she gets so excited. And because the cooking was always integral to the Instagram and to the stories I was telling, I posted a video like 4 days after she died making
Mm,
meatballs, which were the first thing she ever taught me how to make. And I was just talking about like the grieving process just so early and raw. And everybody in that video, I talked about making a cookbook with her, and everybody was like, just do the
just do the
cookbook. Who
book.
cares? And I
Right.
started, and that night, I really started writing like, well, what recipes do I have? What can I gather up? What can I, ask people's help for? And what can I do? And it never really occurred to me that doing it half memoir and half cookbook was so strange or like new for the cookbook world. But
Mm,
each recipe comes with a story, and then there's extra stories too. So for me, it just felt like this was the most natural way to tell this story was basically a biography of her life, but also like an exploration of grief through comedy and through food. And it comes with these recipes that are given to me by my aunt, her sister, her recipe books by her, just through
hmm
me, and then through my brother too. So we had, yeah, so it was just like, I don't know. It was the only thing that was keeping me going at that point because I felt really lost. So I was like, okay, well then at least I have this thing that I'm doing. So like for 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day, I would work on it and not feel so lost. And because that's really, you're grieving, so you're just kind of like in it.
Well, and it seems like you were grieving with your family,
Yeah.
in communication with them and talking
Hmm.
about her recipes, talking about their recipes, sort of keeping her alive, her memory alive in such a sort of rich and engaged way. Um, there are a lot of memoirs out there that have recipes, but I don't, to your point, I don't see them like this.
Yeah.
Usually it's like a chapter, and then there's like I think of Ruth Raquel or Molly, what's her name, the Orangette. It's like a chapter and then a recipe. But this is a full blown cookbook. So when
Yeah.
it came to putting the recipes together, and the stories that went with it. What were some of the recipes that you were like, oh my God, I have to include this recipe because I want to tell this story?
It was a lot like the Canizopita was a big one, the honey walnut cake, which I love. The Suzukakia were a big one because that was something that like was I that was something that was a really good story I wanted to tell too.
Can you tell it
But
now? Tell us a little bit.
the Suzukakia, it was interesting because like before she died, I had Suzukakia in Naxos, and I love Suzukakia, and I loved her Suzukakia. These are
Okay,
like
so for people who
tomatoes.
don't, yeah, just explain
Yeah,
it.
these are like meatballs and like a tomato sauce that's like it's cumin based and it's like really nice. Um and they're really really soft these meatballs. They just like
Fall
melt.
apart.
they fall apart. They're so nice. And you usually do them with rice or French fries. And so
Hmm.
for the suzukake, I had them in Naxos, and I was like, oh, these are so good. They're like almost as good as my mom's, like kind of almost better in some ways, but not really. And then we had this crazy journey where she was like basically in a coma for 4 days in Athens, and we just, I found out she passed like officially on the flight home, and it was an awful experience. I get home, I found her little recipe book, and in it were sutsukake, and I made them, and I was like so happy to do it. But it it was really like a reminder that like in grieving, life truly won't be the same. But even if it's a little different, it can still be really great. Just like those random sutsukake I had in Naxos that were almost as delicious, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of curious, how do you think you and your mom, like if you were to explain Greek food, I mean, you have the islands and Athens, like, there it's regional.
It is
So,
regional, yeah.
one dish may have the same title, but not, um, but maybe prepared a little differently.
Yeah.
So, what would you say sort of the regionality of the dishes your mom does and the flavor profiles that you look for in the
Right.
dishes?
So, one, you'll notice there's not a lot of seafood in this because she's a
Yeah,
mainlander. She was far
right.
from the beach, and so they weren't going to be fishing and doing that. Any fish we really had, she would either make it fresh or we would just go out to eat, honestly. That was when she
Mm.
saved her fish time, which is then she would complain she would get sick from the fish and then be like, I'm never going to that restaurant again. And I'm like, here we go. Here we go again.
Right?
She would like fall in love with the restaurant, and then 2 months later, she would get sick from a fish, and she'd be like, "We're never going there ever again. I hate them." And I'm like, "Here we go." But there's not a lot of fish. There's no dill in her tzatziki. I mean, it's not really dill heavy, the book. I think what
Mm.
you'll notice is a lot of the Arab influence. Like, there's a lot of there's a lot of nuts. There's a lot of
Well, and the
cinnamon. There's a lot of
cumin, like
cloves and
there's,
the
yeah,
cumin.
the cumin, because that
Yeah,
really
there's
stood out to me.
there's one dish called macaroni mekima, which is a spaghetti bolognese sauce that's
Hmm.
made with cinnamon and cloves, and it's so good. It's so so
Mm.
good,
I
and
mean,
it's
to
just like a tomato
me,
sauce.
but to me, that's like umami, right?
Yes.
Because I was having this whole conversation with somebody else about umami, and they're like, I don't really understand what it means. I'm like, it's when you eat something that sometimes that you're used to, like a tomato sauce, but there's another rich layer
Hmm.
that you're not used to, and that provides such a mouthfeel, a joy. And
Yeah.
it's something like that. It's like putting cinnamon and cloves, in a tomato sauce where you're used to oregano and basil, right?
Right.
That's a totally different experience.
Right. Right.
Um, so for you, are there things that you make? Do you make Greek food nightly? Like, are you cooking nightly?
Not nightly, I have to say, because I'm on the road a lot, and so
Oh,
I
sure.
don't really, I can't cook a lot. But when I like, for example, my birthday is coming up this weekend, and I'm making him pasticcio because that's his favorite.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so I do cook, and we do cook a lot from the book,
That's so
which is
nice.
nice. Yeah, it's really nice.
It's,
Yeah.
I assume that your boyfriend is not Greek.
He is like part Greek. His dad is half Greek, and so
Okay.
they like all the Greek stuff. So it's been interesting because they have all their favorites, and I've been slowly making them things, and they've all been like, "Ooh, wow, how cool!" 'Cause they're like kind of obsessed with Greek culture, and I'm like, "Go for it."
I mean, I feel like everybody's obsessed with Greek culture right
Yeah,
now
it's
because it's
great.
everywhere. Um,
Yeah,
could we talk about Easter? Because Easter sort of shows up a lot in the book. It clearly is very important to your family and to your mom, but it was such a big deal,
yeah.
just for you as a kid growing up, for your mom, for the family, and you really lay it out here beautifully. Like, what were some of those key dishes that were so important to be on the table for Easter?
I wanted to do a lamb roast because, again, even without Easter, we Sunday every afternoon we did a lamb roast, so it was like
Hmm.
very important to have that in there. Um, the cookies were also very important to have in there, the kulurakia, because that is like she would have like the container store, like those bins. She would
Yeah.
have like 3 bins full of those cookies every
And
year,
which kind of can
just
you
doling
explain
them
those
out.
cookies? What
These are
those
like
cookies?
simple butter cookies. They're usually round or they're like a swirl, but they're just butter
Mm-hmm.
cookies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great for like dipping in your coffee. They're so lovely.
Mm.
Um, but there is also one dish in there that is called mahiritza, which is like an offal soup, which is made with like a bunch of lamb organs
I
and
know. I
guts.
saw that. I was
And
like, mm-mm, that's
I
not for
I
me.
needed that. I wanted that in there to tell the story. That was really for
Hmm.
the storytelling because even in that story, I'm like, I am never making this ever again. Thank you very much. I hate
Right.
this. And it's just
Offal
like
is offal for a
it's
reason.
it's truly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the Easter section was really fun. I know I wanted to have a separate chapter for it that I was like
Right.
going to really explain because I also went viral during Easter, and then every year I would do like certain Easter videos with my mom
Hmm.
and myself, and so it was also like the thing growing up that like outside of religion I could get down with the traditions of like because
Hmm.
I'm not a very religious person, but I can with the Easter traditions, I'm like always like, oh yeah, let's do it. This is fun. This is family time.
But
We
that's
are, yeah,
culture. Do you know
that's
what I mean? So,
culture.
like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not religious, but I have the traditions that I grew up with, and
Right.
I love them. I love the traditions I grew up with,
Yeah,
and I love sharing
absolutely.
them. So I really agree with you on that. We are going to have to wrap up soon. There's so many like amazing essays in here that really resonated with me, and terrific recipes for people who feel like, because the names of the dishes are in Greek, and maybe intimidated. Can you give me sort of like, oh, like on any day of the week, you could just make X, and it's not a labor of love, it's dinner.
Oh, you could honestly, that's the great part about this book is that because I'm not a chef and my mom was not a chef, these are
Mm-hmm.
all pretty easy to do on a night. Like all of
Mm-hmm.
these would probably take you at most 90 minutes and any of them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would say like make the spaghetti bolognese. You should do the fasolacchia. The green beans are really nice
Mm.
and simple and it takes 45 minutes. Especially now that it's like green bean season, I think it'd be really nice to do that. And
I'm all about
then
the cheese. I'm doing the cheese pie. That one's very high on my
the cheese
list.
pie, there's a lazy cheese pie in there that is so
Uh-huh.
good. And then you can also air fry it after it's baked and drizzle honey on it, and it's
Yum.
amazing.
So good.
And it's so easy. And then also, I would say do the meatballs. The meatballs are great. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the first thing I learned how to make, first thing she taught me how to do, first thing
Mm-hmm.
I put in the book. And they're simple and they're easy and they're great.
Okay, I'm going to be doing all those. So cheese is coming first for me. I'm sort of want to. If your mom could see this book today, like, what do you think she would say?
Oh, I think she would say, wow, all of this is so wrong.
You
No,
screwed
she
this
would.
up. You screwed
You
that
screwed
up. What the
this up, you
fuck?
screwed that up, this, I don't
Right.
like this picture, I don't like this, you should have done it like this, you should have done it like this. But overall, I mean, if we had done it together, she would have been way more involved in the creative process, so it would have been, really more of her. But I think she really would look at it and be like, she would be like, good job. Like, she really wouldn't even fuck around. She would be like, good job, this is great,
I love
honestly.
it.
And she would brag about it to all her friends, and I know that, so yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I have 5 children. If you were my son and you put out a book like this, I would be bragging to all my friends as well.
Oh, that's really
It's
sweet. Thank you.
beautiful. Okay, rapid fire. Let me see, which
Great.
ones do I want to give you? Um, Comedy Club or Your Mom's Kitchen? Which one taught you more?
Oh, my mom's kitchen.
Okay.
Because she taught me
Um,
how to write jokes. She was funny.
she sounds like she was a real
Yeah,
character.
she was a real storyteller. So I learned storytelling and comedy in that kitchen.
That makes sense. Okay. Most iconic one-liner your mom would want people to remember.
When I die, you are all going to starve. That's the best one.
That's the title of the show. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. And let's see. Let's give you one more. What is one word for your mom?
A force.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I regret not knowing her, but I love how you brought her to life
Thank you.
through your grief, but also through so much love and so much humor and deliciousness. So, Gus, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining me today. I'm just going to wrap up quickly, and I just want to thank Gus for the comedy hour that I don't normally get on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, for all of you joining us today, thank you so much for joining Industry Night. Gus, tell everybody where they can find you on the gram or the talk.
I am at Constantly Gus on everything, including Venmo. So just get crazy, guys.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'm on Venmo too at
Yeah.
NYCCINELLIS.
There you go. Yeah.
Um, yes. So thank you all for joining me today. Find me on all the platforms, the gram. Oh, on the gram, by the way, I just launched a new series. It's called Roasted, but not by me. We are having chefs around the country read their mean reviews and respond, and it's pretty funny. So if you're a chef and you want to do it with me, hit me on the DMs, just slide on in there. But some of you have thin skin, so it's not for you. Just fair warning. Again, Gus, thank you so much for joining me. Industry Night, you know where to find it. If you have any questions, DM me. Like, subscribe, all the things, and follow. And everybody, be safe out there and have a delicious week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.